A. Oh, look, we're online.
Yeah.
Okay. 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 So today we're gonna go over.
Echo.
Okay. Now I'm better. Okay. Because it was getting weird. Okay. So now the echo's gone. Okay. So today, you guys, if you're tuning in later or today, right now, we're gonna talk about K-pop, and then we're gonna talk about Black people and K-dramas. Now I got a little bit of a PowerPoint for you all for that one. Not so professional PowerPoint, but it's just easy to organize stuff online just so visual. But anyway, so Jessica knows more about this than I do, right? This is particularly, if you're here, you know it's particularly a SHINee channel. I only old K-pop I listen to is SHINee, and SHINee's timeless, so it's not even old. So that's the only
Honestly.
group I listen to on this channel. I'm familiar with Got7, and I'm familiar with like a lot of other bands, but I'm a little bit new to K-pop in the sense of like when I like a band, I just zero in on it. So I haven't been listening to other bands. So I'm not sure about the history of K-pop. But Jessica is a little bit better than me. She's not good, but she knows a little bit better than me. She was telling me the difference between this band called 2 a.m. and 2 p.m. And then I was just like, oh shoot, like that is a
Yeah.
difference. Yeah, and I was just like, I was listening to their music earlier. So what do you think about them?
I prefer 2 p.m. only because like I think a lot of their stuff is just classic. Like if you like, they have a song called "Hands Up." They have "Ad Toy." First off, "Ad Toy" was a song, the name of the song, but in the song, there's an iconic dance move that everyone loves. Well, at least the old K-pop fans, they love it. And then 2 p.m. had like "My House" again and again. Like they just have a really good discography. I like 2 a.m. as well. I like 2 a.m. more for their slow music, and I think I like 2 p.m. more for like the upbeat type stuff. But yeah, I think they're pretty much they're like classics. Like you said, like I think they're considered old K-pop, like SHINee, freaking Super Junior, Big Bang, that type of old. Maybe they may be older. Honestly, I think they're older than Big Bang, but yeah, they're
Yeah, I
about.
know about Big Bang because that was popular when I was in high school or a little bit at its peak. So I'm like, oh, I remember high school bands, but like else before that,
Yeah.
like I don't know. I don't know what's like really. So what do you think? Do you think K-pop is better now or back then? Or it's
Um,
timeless?
as far as the sound, I think K-pop is so hard. I think that's hard to. Okay, I'm gonna go off of what I prefer to hear personally. I like K-pop more now, as far as sound for me. But as far as like, I think as far as like the look of K-pop, so like the look of the bands, the classics, the moves, I think those were done better back then. But I feel like as far as the sound that I prefer, it's now. 'Cause I'm 20, I'm young. We like the young people. Like I feel like K-pop is now appealing to like American crowds, so they're playing more music that I actually like to listen to. Versus back then, they were trying to like they were trying to break through to the American market, but it wasn't as prevalent as now when you have people like BTS and Blackpink all over everywhere, even in America. So yeah, I like the sound of new K-pop. I like the look of old K-pop.
Yeah, I can see that. I can see that. I like the look of old K-pop because it reminds me of old R&B in the 2000s.
Yeah,
That's the
exactly.
reason. It was like it reminds me of old R&B in the 2000s. I like the look of it. Yeah, but I was listening to like 2 a.m. and then I was just like, wow. I don't know. I didn't like the. I didn't dislike it because I like like there was only one song, so it's like I can't say whether or not I like the group. But the song was just like it was okay. But maybe because it was just like I picked a random song and was that may not have been one of their best songs, or maybe just my
Yeah,
opinion. And maybe I need to look into like all 34 songs or hundreds of songs that they have.
yeah. I think 2 a.m. didn't go as far as 2 p.m. I believe. I think 2 a.m. was they had a career, but they didn't have a career like 2 p.m. I think 2 p.m.'s music was more popular. It was more like timeless. I think 2 a.m.'s music was pretty good. It was, but it couldn't compete and because they were under the same label, naturally it's JYP. I don't think he cared for both groups equally. He had to pick a favorite, so I think that's probably what happened with that.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. That's what I was thinking about. I was like, I want to look into old K-pop because I know Shiny's pretty good. I love Shiny.
Yeah,
I like Big Bang. I used to be obsessed with G Dragon in high school. That was ridiculous. Like, so that was a problem.
yeah.
so, and Top, I used to be like, or TOP. I don't know if he goes by Top or TOP because I never really talked to anyone about like, like I love his voice. I love how deep his voice was. Okay,
Yeah.
he used to get on
Kind of
there.
my head.
Oh, that bass in your voice, boy. Like that's good.
Yeah. Yeah, I think he introduces himself as TLP, but I call him Top because
Yeah, that's
it's
what I
like
said. I call him Top, but then I know he probably called like TOP. Like,
it's like with EXO. They introduce themselves as EXO, but everyone calls them EXO. So
yeah,
yeah.
it was like we're gonna call you like Snoop Dogg tried to do rebrand and call himself Snoop Lion. So we call
No one calls themselves. I'm sorry, his career was too long under Snoop Dogg. It wouldn't make sense. Just like BTS tried to do the Beyond the Scene. Everybody calling you that
him.
because their American name is Beyond the Scene, but I'm not calling you that.
BTS is easier than Beyond the Scene. Beyond the Scene seemed like so like early 2000s American band that breaks up. Like,
Yeah, I
like I
think
don't do the American names. You may break up in the end.
they did that because they was like, oh, I don't want. I feel like because Americans act like they can't say shit. I feel like people be like, oh, that's BTS. Somebody be like, what BTS stand for? And then because it stands for Bangtan Sonyeondan, people be like, I can't pronounce that. And so I feel like PD them of Big Hit, the dude over Big Hit, he probably was like, let's make it easier for their dumb selves, and then we're gonna give them an easy American name that will be easy to pronounce. But I'm just like, I rather just prefer you call you BTS. I wouldn't even ask what it stood for, and even if I did, I know how to say it. It's because it's not that hard. It's like 5 syllables.
I don't know how to say it, but I don't think I'd be too upset with them for like, I don't know. I don't think like BTS is that hard. I'm not gonna ask the acronym. Like I
I
think
wouldn't ask, yeah.
yeah, people just love to hate BTS in the US anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, unless you're a stan and you actually like not a stan, unless you're a stan of other like unless you're a stan within K-pop,
Mm-hmm.
and like you have actual beef with BTS, you know what I mean? Like they did something to your like bias or they did
Mm-hmm.
the bands that you like I understand that. But I'm talking about like people who love to hate BTS, like and don't even listen to K-pop, like never heard K-pop. I hate it. Like it's just like what? And
It's
like
like, why?
exactly. It was like why? Like I always thought that was weird. Like even on my channel, like I know that people have like really good reasons to not like BTS because of what they did to like people who are Shiny stands and also to Shiny the band and stuff like that. So like that makes sense. But sometimes when I talk to my sister about it or like with some family members, they'd be like, "Oh, you like K-pop or like you like BTS?" Like it's like a hate and disdain for it. But it's like you don't even know what. I don't even listen to BTS first of all. But second of all, like you don't even know, like you don't even know about it. You just don't like it because it's different, like or foreign, or like it's just
Yeah,
like
that's that'd be the only reason. There's no other reason. Like, there's usually never another reason.
give me a good reason. I'm understandable. Like, oh, okay, yeah, I can see why you don't like them. But it was like, don't be like, oh, I don't like them because they're Korean. Like, it's like, okay,
I'm not people to be like, I just don't like their sound, stuff like that. Like, I feel like that's valid. I'm not gonna be like, bro, what the heck? But if you just like them, and I'm like, why? And you're like, I don't know. Like, you just don't like them just to not like them. Then I'm just like, I can't take you seriously because you don't even have a real reason to dislike them. You don't even have a real reason to be like, you didn't even say I don't like their sound. You didn't even say I don't like the way they dress. I don't like, how they portray themselves on television. You just don't know. Like, I don't, I'm not, no. Like, that don't even make sense.
yeah, definitely. Also, I want to put up there. So one of my commentators, they said that Shiny is back. Okay, Shiny's back together. So I'm excited to see it because I've been watching nothing but Shiny stuff on my channel, right? And
Yeah.
off my channel. And so I'm like, if Shiny's back, I think that's really cool because I'm like, that means I get to buy concert tickets and be able to go.
Yeah. They recently did, I think because trying to think who just got the military. One of them got the military not that long ago, and then I think ever since then they've been having plans to have like a reunion type thing. I think it might have been Onu.
Comeback tour.
Yeah, like I think Onu might have been the last one to get out of the military. I think all of them have gone already. I don't know. I don't know. Has Tatum been to the military yet? I'm not sure, but I know one of them got out not that long ago, and then they were making plans to reunite, and that's when they did it. And I don't think they've made any music since they've been back, but they're in the works. So
Yeah, definitely, definitely. I'm excited. I wanted to show you a video of them, but give me a moment. But like I want to show you a video of them. I wanted you to react to this video. It is really cute. Somebody posted it in my one of my videos like a couple of weeks ago. I never got a chance to look at it. But definitely want to show it to you. But other than that, how's your day going? Wait, what's your favorite old school band anyway?
oh Lord, that's really hard. I feel like I once was in love with a lot of bands, and I feel I love like I think my favorite was definitely Big Bang. One of my favorites was definitely Big Bang, but I think as time has gone on, it's just been a weird because I love to like go back and binge watch bands. It's just been like a really weird back and forth with me. Like I don't know. Like I love Big Bang, of course, but then I also I love Shinhwa. I love Super Junior. I love like so. I think I like a lot of groups too much to be like, okay, so what's your favorite? I feel like I don't know. I feel like it might be between like Big Bang and Girls' Generation, probably. Probably, I think. But I also like Epic High. Nah, we're gonna do Epic High. I like Epic High. Epic High was a trio. It was my favorite. I love every last song they ever made. So yeah, we're gonna do Epic High. But I love Epic High. I love TVXQ. Like it's just a lot. It's a lot. It's a lot.
Yeah, I forgot about Girls' Generation. I used to like Girls' Generation too back in high school. like not even like young adulthood too. I was like, wow. Like Big Bang followed me into young adulthood, which I'm still a young adult, but like when I got out of high school, like 18, like 17, Big Bang followed me. I was like still a Big Bang fan. And then Girls' Generation, wow, you just reminded me. I'm like, Girls' Generation, wow. Like I just I was like, I forgot they were a band. Like
Yeah,
they were
Girls'
really good. They
Generation.
had some bangers. That's what thing was like too. They had some really good music.
Yeah, but it wasn't a lot of. I don't think it was just. I think it was. They weren't. It wasn't a lot of girl groups like them. I mean, as far as old school girl groups, there was Wonder Girls and Girls' Generation. Um, but like there was more of a plethora of boy groups. So I feel like Girls' Generation, while they are iconic, of course, I feel like at the time they probably didn't stand out as much because they were girl groups and they were like 9 girls. So I think that people appreciated their sound more as time went on. But I think at the time, I don't think people really paid much attention. Now, I thought people did, but I don't think people really appreciated how like legendary their music was until years later. Um, which is natural because, like I said, when you're in a field that's like predominantly male and you're surrounded by boy groups, I think people's attention is naturally focused on them. But I think Girls' Generation is equally as great. Like I love Girls' Generation.
I'm sorry, I couldn't find a video. I was like, oh shoot, I forgot to put it in a little PowerPoint thing I did. Oh well, it's lost to the ether. But yeah, but definitely, yeah. I think yeah. You know what? I think about like what is about sexism within K-pop? Like are girl groups doing as good as like boy groups? Because I know people go crazy over the boy groups, and I know like I don't hear that much about girl groups, but I know Blackpink is really popular. So I know like people
Mm-hmm.
go crazy over Blackpink, but I think that like I hear more groups, but maybe because I'm interested in more boy groups than girl groups.
Mm-hmm.
Do that too. I listened to Twice. That was like
Yeah, I
that was
think girl groups are definitely getting up there. Like they're way more appreciated than they once were. I'm trying to have something in my eye. Oh my gosh. But groups like Twice, Blackpink, Everglow, 21 ain't together no more. Sad. But yeah, we got Everglow. We got Red Velvet. We've got so many good groups. A new group from SM called aespa. Like, I feel like there are a lot more girl groups, and girl groups are starting to get like up there with the dudes. Like, I feel like they're getting just as appreciated, and that's also because a lot of, for some reason, the opposite gender likes the opposite styles. Like, typically, girls go for boy groups and the boys go for girl groups. But once upon a time, boys being K-pop fans wasn't really acknowledged. Hence why like a lot of boy groups rose to the top. But I think now a lot of dudes are perfectly fine with being K-pop stans, and most of their faves are girl groups. But I love girl groups. I feel like I love girl groups and boy groups equally. I feel like when I started, I liked boy groups more, but I feel like now I like them just as equally. Because of course there's more girl groups now. There's more to pick from. There's different sounds, different looks to choose. Um, but yeah, there's a lot of girl groups out nowadays. I think it's at this point, I feel like there's probably just as many or almost as much as the boy groups out because I don't know. I don't know. I think a lot of them though are mostly popular in Korea. Like a lot of them don't branch over to here. I guess because the biggest boy group here is BTS. The biggest girl group is Blackpink. Um, but I feel like not that many boy groups branch over here anyway. But I feel like less girl groups branch over. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm thinking too. I'm like thinking about it like, huh? Because I know like America like individuals. So I know when like Psy came over here with like Gundam style, like everybody was just like, oh my gosh, this is gonna be a hit here. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
like on different shows and TV and everything over here. And like, but then when it was like coming to bands coming over to the US is like, nah. Like I don't
Yeah.
know why the US has a disdain for bands because everyone starts off in a band, like Justin Timberlake, Beyonce, etc. They all start off in the band, but they break
Mhm.
off. But that's not necessarily the same thing in like Korea, where you're in that band for life more likely, or you go to a new band. So like
Mhm.
I don't know. I wondered is that like one of the reasons why it's hard for like K-pop bands to break into the US, because it's like the US is more like individualistic. It was like, oh, who's the star in the group, right? And that's like
Mhm.
what they're asking.
Yeah, I think that's a big contributor to it as well. I feel like a lot of times the language barrier throws people off as well. Like if the song ain't catchy enough to the point where people can ignore the language barrier, like Gangnam Style, what's that song that's in Spanish? Freaking Despacito.
Yeah.
Yeah, like if the song isn't catchy enough for people to be able to ignore the language, they don't want to hear it. And I feel like most times like the song can't be decent in another language. It's not gonna hit. Like the song has to be catchy. It's in some way for people to like overlook the language itself. But I feel like a lot of times there'd be a lot of groups that would have been popular over here had the language not been that big of a deal to people. Um, yeah, like I think it took for BTS. BTS had made many albums, but it took for BTS to make Dynamite. For people over here to start like listening to BTS. And I thought people, of course, listened to the BTS before then, but they didn't make their TV debut until they listened to BTS. They blah blah blah. They didn't make their TV debut until they made Dynamite. They didn't go on the Jimmy Kimmel show, Jimmy Fallon, all that until they made Dynamite. And that song just happens to be catchy enough to the point where you can ignore the language. No, psych. That song is entirely in English. I just thought about it. Dynamite is, even though of course they have accents, that song is entirely in English. So and that is their first song that they've ever made that's entirely in English. So the fact that they made it in English where the language isn't a concern and they made it really, really catchy, of course it hit over here. So of course people over here pay attention to it. And of course people are now like, oh my gosh, they deserve a Grammy for Dynamite, blah blah. When they've had like three, four, no, like 5, 6 albums before Dynamite was ever introduced. They've had a career since 20, I think they debuted like 2013. Like they've been out here, but it took for them to make an English song, an English record that was really catchy for them to debut over here. And I'm just like, I feel like that's such a low bar. Like the criteria to being liked in the US is just so like
It's not
it's
even
like
no, it's a high bar because I think like we pump all like even when you watch like K dramas, or if you watch like commercials in Korea and stuff like that, it's like it's always some type of like American music in the background or something like that, or like very much like like internet. It's like America is like if it ain't our music, we ain't listening to it.
Yeah. And it's
America's
like,
like very much like stuck up in that way, whereas it's like, is it if it's not like I don't know, it's really true. Like if it's not pop music, we're not listening to it. We won't even listen to other types of music within America, right? We have so many
yeah,
different diverse cultures and stuff like that that we just wouldn't even listen to. And like I think that's just it. I think America is just like, very much just like not liking like foreign music because it's like, I don't know, we're xenophobic here. It's just like America's number one. And it was like never nothing is ever compared to America's great music, you know.
sure.
Right. But then like America, yeah. So I just think like America's like kind of like just disconnected from that. And I don't know, like I don't know. I just wish that America would be more open minded towards things. Like I think it can be really culturally influencing to have like a very like just like dynamic changing, just to have more open minds towards things.
Mm,
Even with policies and laws and stuff like that, as well as like just even music and culture, foods. Like we won't even try different foods. Like America would be like, no, I ain't trying this food at all. Like a lot
yes.
of Americans will not try any different foods like at all because they're just like, this is disgusting. This is from a different country. I'm gonna stick to what I know. And it's just like, and it's so problematic. It's just like you're gonna give up something good. Like you don't know if you like it or not, right? And that's the same thing with like K-pop and K-dramas. Like you don't know if you like it or not, so you can't be like, I don't like it, right?
Yeah. I think there's just, in the day, it's kind of like internalized xenophobia. Like, even though you yourself may not feel like, go back to your country, you may not be blatant Donald Trump with it, but you can have internalized xenophobia and that be a real thing. Like, you can internalize those prejudices or like that like bias, or you could just, I feel like that happens, but I feel like that's also because America itself feels like it's higher of a country than what it really is. Like, I feel like we as Americans are supposed to be so patriotic because America's like, the US is like the best country in the freaking universe. But like, we're not that good of a country. Like, we lack in a lot of departments. But I think it's because we have this idea that we are top and everybody else is like trying to get up there. We are such a bully country. And I feel like people have this idea of like, they should want to try our foods. Why not try theirs? Theirs is nasty. Ours is top. When really we have the highest level of obesity in the entire world. Like, people die with the diets that the like American cuisine has. Our diets can literally kill us. Like, we can literally develop so many health problems with the type of food that is popular here. But go off. I just feel like it's just like, I feel like this country is very much overrated. And like I said, we think too highly of ourselves. We think higher of ourselves than what we really are. I'm not saying don't be proud of where you're from, but like, confidence and arrogance are two different things. And I feel like a lot of Americans are so arrogant to the point where it's like, our music is superior, our food is superior, our men is superior, our money, our currency, our lives, our architecture, our literature, everything is superior. And it's just like, no. Like, the U.S. is literally a country. It's such a we're such a phony country. Like, the way that so many foundations of this country is built from other places, from our language to the literal soil where we walk on. Like, a lot of what we think is American is really built from so many other places. Like, we're not original, we're fake. Like, we're a fake country. Like, we have so many, we take from other places and then we make our own shit, our own stuff with other places and be like, yeah, this is American. And it's like,
So are
bro,
you gonna do you think 100 years from now we're gonna be like K-pop is American? Like is it
oh my
American?
God, I'd kill myself.
We're gonna be like K-pop is so American, just as like hamburgers and tacos, because we're gonna appropriate some tacos up in here too.
Oh my gosh, I pray not. Because I feel like
Gonna be white people who are like, don't take away our K-pop, and then they're gonna be like
I would be
singing like the
surprised.
K-pop national anthem and be like, yeah, Korean is our language as Americans.
I feel like I wouldn't be surprised because I feel like white America has a tendency to take so much. I wouldn't be surprised if they try to claim shit that's stuff that's clearly not ours. Like, and I only say we because I am an American, but I don't do this. Like, like I would say we because I'm an American. I can't be a fraud and be like, the Americans over there. I'm American too, but I don't have internalized xenophobia. I don't believe that my country is above everyone else. And it's like we're not even that great of a country. Like when people come over here, they probably want to go back home. Like only time they okay with being over here if it's like this is refuge or this place is better as far as living than somewhere where they came from. But when it comes visiting here, yeah, well, we got New York, LA, this cute. Go back home. Don't stay over here. Like, we
Yeah,
no,
like yeah, I would tell people like I know people who would be like, I want to live in America. I was like, no, you don't.
you really don't. Especially if you're a person of color, especially if
Exactly.
you're dark.
Especially mostly people of color, they'd be like, I want to live. I'm like, no, you don't, because
There's
it's
so much
fun
going on
visiting.
right now.
It's fun visiting countries.
Of
It's literally
course,
a
like
different story, right? We ain't friendly to people who don't speak English, like in a way that, like, America's not very friendly to people who don't really speak English that well. America's not friendly to people who have like accents. Like, nah, no, you don't. But this reminds me of this random story. This is a random story. Like when I was like
okay.
an orientation leader at my college, like this girl, she was like from Nigeria, and she was just like, put me down as white. And I was like, what? And then she was just like, it was just like, I'm telling this story because it just reminded me of like people being like, that's not how that works here. Just me
Yeah,
being
it's
like, that's not how that works here. She was like, well, I don't want to be associated with black people. I'm like, but you're black here. You from the blackest place on earth is Africa. So like, you're gonna be put down as black. She was like, but I want to be white here. I'm like, I'm not like the other black people here. I was like,
where was this?
that was like, it wasn't even that long ago. It was like 2018, 2017.
Girl, first off,
I was just like, no, that's not how it works here.
we're not begging you to be a part of the team, just so you know, but those cops will show you that you're a part of the team. The police, the government, people walking down the street and yell the N word at you will tell you that you are not a part of what you think you are. And I feel like, well, okay, for one, Lumi said that her experience in China is that things from Europe and Asia are more expensive just because they are from there. Also, Korean Japanese products too. The fact that it's Korean and Japanese is a selling point, and I agree with that. And I feel like in reverse, it's so crazy because stuff from Korea and Japan is so cheap over here. Like same thing with China. Like I feel like I can get a product. Okay, it depends on where I get it from. Because I feel like if I go to, for example, Chinatown, they're gonna exploit that money. They want all the money out of me. They're gonna be like, you're gonna pay for this. But if I try to get like,
Should be costing all.
yeah, like they're gonna want that money. But if it's like something small, depending on what I'm getting, it can be really cheap. Like I mean, for one, China is one of our biggest, like, what they give us most of our import and export. Like, so I feel like a lot of products, a lot of materials that are from China, a lot of toys, little stuff like that. People call it Chinese because it may look cheap or it looks like it don't look like the best quality. So it'll be like that. Like when you're mass producing something and it comes over here, like I said, toys, then it'll be cheaper. But if I'm going to a place like Chinatown in Chicago or any Chinatown in any city, I feel like they're the ones who own the shops, they own the stores, they own the little places that you go to buy your little knickknacks, and they think you are a tourist, so they're gonna get your money. But I have no problem with that because I knew what I signed up for when I walked the street. Um, but like I I agree with that. And also I feel like back to the point of the girl who's like put me down as white.
I just thought of that, like how people be like when I be talking to people, like because my school we had a lot of like high immigration population, like people were coming in from abroad, and like everyone would be like, all the people of color would be like, put me down as white here. She wasn't the only one. I'm like, wait,
I just died.
like you just opt in, like we just like Black Americans just was like opting out of whiteness, like, and like it's nothing wrong with being black, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
It kind of felt like it was like like yeah, I just think like it's just no oppression here. Like we just choosing to live this life. Like
I just died. I screamed in the middle of what I was saying because someone in the chat said, "Is that afro your natural hair or a wig?" Listen, listen, listen. You don't, okay. You don't ask a black person, specifically a black woman, is that your real hair? Because I don't know. I'm not gonna assume this person's, ethnicity. This person name's Dennis. I'm not gonna assume your ethnicity, you know. But like, that's a funny question. I've never had nobody
It's
ask
pretty
me that.
regardless, Jessica. It's pretty regardless.
Like, exactly. Period. It's mine. It's mine. Yes, it's mine. And even if it was store bought, it's still mine. Even if it was from the store, I bought it. And if I grew it, it's still mine. Either way, it's mine. Anyway, back to the girl. So the girl, I feel like that kind of speaks to that kind of with the girl when she was saying like, put me down as white. I feel like that just kind of speaks to like this tension that Africans and African Americans have. Like, and it's crazy because I don't see that with a lot of people. Like, I don't really see that with like Chinese and Chinese Americans. I feel like it's there, of course. Like, it's going to exist because it's like we are a sea away from each other. We have so many various things that contribute to us like made butting heads. But I feel like Africans and African Americans, maybe because I'm a part of that community, we have this huge tension. Like, we have this huge tension, and I feel like it's sad because just recently, I have TikTok. I love TikTok, and just recently, like, there's been like African Americans on TikTok like trying fufu for the first time, and they only add to why we don't like each other because they're like, blah, this is disgusting. They'll spit it out. They're like, rake their tongues, like, so extra. Listen, there are a lot of foods in my life that I did not like, but I guarantee that I have never shot some food across the room because I didn't like it. I've never done this because I didn't like it. Like, even if you don't like a food, you can be like, oh, it's not my thing, but I can see a lot of people like it. It's very seasoned, it's flavorful, but it's just not my taste. Like, I'd rather you do that than like be really extra with it because that's from someone's homeland. Like, that's someone's culture. It's really disrespectful to just be like, like any food, whether it's African food, whether it's fufu, it can be Chinese, it can be from Indonesia, honey, it can be from India. It's just really disrespectful to do that. Like, I think it's just, I don't know. I don't know. I feel like it's really disrespectful, honestly. And I think a lot of people don't realize that. Oh my gosh. Hey, why the message deleted it? Okay, people, I got the haters in the chat now. Okay. Some dude said, why do you have hair on your chin? I don't have hair on my chin. This is a scar. It's a really bad scar that I got a long time ago. And it turned black. And it's just there. And I don't wear makeup, so I'm not covering it.
Oh, it's chosen to check. That means the moderator is supposed to like get people
Yeah,
out.
they deleted it. It's okay.
Please don't write insulting things on the channel. If you got nothing good to say, don't say it at all.
It's just a weird question. I've never had nobody ask me that question. Like, it's not hair. I've never had hair on my face. But I don't. I've heard worse, so I don't care. But yeah, I feel like there's the tension. It's just really sad. I feel like a lot of Africans that I meet in my life, they'll tell me their experiences, and I'll tell them my experiences, and it's like miscommunication. It's always like, I can't really blame one side because we're equally as bad. Like, it's just, I don't know, and I feel bad about that because I don't think I've ever in my life contributed to that those like that separation, I guess, because from an early age, I think my mother always like told me the differences between ethnicity and like, ethnicity doesn't mean you are necessarily my enemy. Something is wrong with you. My mom has always said like, we have differences as well. Like, people from other countries don't eat pig feet. People from other countries may not eat chitlins, but here we are smashing. First off, I don't eat that, but like my family does.
So like it's like I was talking to one of my friend who's like Chinese, and she was talking about they eat like pig intestines for like stuff. I feel like a lot of countries, I feel like black people are very much unappreciating like the taste of chitlins. And
Mm-hmm.
like other countries are like, yeah, we throw it in the pot, we fry it up, we
Yeah.
eat it. And I was just like, and all of like black Americans that I know now, they're like, chitlins is disgusting. It's beneath us. I'm like, other countries frying it up. They eating, they putting herbs
Yeah.
in it, they like cooking it in different ways. I'm like, maybe you ain't cooking it in the right way. Maybe boiling hot sauce on it ain't even good for you, you know? Like maybe that's not the one you wanted. Maybe you want fried chitlins. I had fried pig intestines. It was delicious. Okay. It was in China
Yeah.
with some like very much like hot like
So put some hot sauce on it, potatoes.
yeah, it was very much delicious, right? Like I can
Mhm.
understand chitlins being time consuming, but like other than that, like I feel like it's a really decent like tasting food.
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of Black American, I don't know, I think we becoming too Americanized in any way because like even
Yeah.
though we've been here for like 400 years, I still feel like finally we're like not enslaved, and now we're becoming too Americanized, like being like xenophobic and like being like ew, disgusting. I'm like, hey, bro, like
It's
don't
not
feel
even that deep.
like
Like I think I grew up. I don't think I've ever eaten pig feet. But also, most of my family, the family that I really communicate with, we're all from Chicago or we're all from the Midwest. So like the family that I have from the South, they've either passed on or they're like so far back that my mother don't we don't really communicate with them like that. But most of my family, we're from Chicago or we're from like a place around Chicago. Um, so like the pig feet thing, I feel like that's more southern. I didn't have that. But one thing my grandmother did bring was chitlins. We grew up on those. I think I stopped eating it when I was like 14 because my grandmother passed at that time and my mother refused to make them. So I didn't have them again, essentially, because my grandmother was the only person in the family that was willing to make them. Um, so after that, it was like deuces to that. But when I did eat it, we had hot sauce with it. You cook it with potatoes to eliminate the smell. I didn't know that was a thing, but apparently it works. You boil it in the pot and you put potatoes in there, and it doesn't stink up the house. At least, or as bad, I guess. But yeah, it can be good. Like I feel like a lot of foods that people find disgusting here, someone over in another place appreciates, and vice versa. Like people in other countries, especially in a lot of Asian countries, they'll eat different types of animals, and then people are just like, oh my gosh, wow, you're eating that. And it's just like, we're not that much better when you really think about it, because we eat cows and pigs and chickens, and even though it's processed through a factory and we don't pluck the feathers ourselves, we still eat it. And I feel like a lot of people are so like extra when they're over here smashing on pig cankles or something, like they're living their life with this pig, like going crazy. People don't care about fish at all. Like people eat the butt of a fish. Like you eat this fish, this lobster, this crab, this crustacean, and then judge somebody else for eating something that flies or eating something that's like, that's a pet over here. Okay, listen, it may be a pet to you, but someone's gonna smash on it.
right, and that's
Someone's gonna
exactly
eat
it.
it.
Like, not even understanding the history why people started eating like certain animals and stuff like that. Because like it used to
Yeah.
be famine, right? Like famine was a big thing where people are like, "Hey, we're starving. We don't have time for pets," you know. So like people are gonna not eat the like you know have different things like guinea pigs and like I think Peru, like they're like a delicacy there, like where like people were like legitimately eating it. Like here we're like, "Those are hamsters or they're our pets," you know. And there they're like, "We were starving. They look good, and we ate them." Now it's a delicacy. We didn't have time for pets like this. We wanted a pet, we get something else.
Yeah.
Like
I don't I've never watched somebody eat something and then be like, oh my gosh, that's so disgusting. Like I said, we may not be over here like traditionally smashing on a certain animal, but that doesn't necessarily mean that that animal that they're eating on is necessarily, it doesn't make them any less that they're eating that and more that we're eating crabs and pigs. Like like honestly, most animals, if you cook it right, it's edible. Like you can eat it. If you do what you got to do to it, you can eat most animals. Like I don't see the problem. Like I said, I may not be smashing on horses over here, but somewhere maybe a horse is a delicacy. I don't know. Listen, horses are my favorite animals.
only because it's a tough animal. It's like I rather people like fatty animals taste the best in my opinion. So like a horse like that look like tough meat, and I'd be like, See, that's why I wouldn't even.
Yeah.
It's like, but I would rather people not like it for like the concept of it. Like, you know what?
Mm,
I wouldn't try that because it's like it's gonna be muscle and tough meat, so it's not really gonna be like very tender. I like tender meat, you know. But
yeah. Like even, someone in the chat said, "Hey guys, glad you're back," and that's so nice. Thank you. I'm glad to be back. But eating some meats, I'm just now recently like people like, and I'm just now knowing like people over here eat gator. People like crickets.
bro, my family eats gator. No, I'm saying we're from New Orleans, so like we eat gators, we eat shark, like shark meat. Ah, shark meat is so good. But my mom's like talking about like when my great grandma was younger, she would just be cooking up some shark meat, some gator meat, and be like, "Hey,
Shark
we
meat.
eat gumbo. We all about seafood. That's my only favorite foods I eat is like seafood. To be honest,
Mm,
like that's like where my cultural food comes from. So like any other like I really don't like beef. I don't like pork like that. Like my cultural foods like it's just seafood,
mm,
rice, and like that just Cajun seasoning. Like that's what
mm.
I eat. Like anything else, I'm just like not interested. And Italian food for some reason. I
It's
just
such it's such the opposite for me. I think because I'm from, like I said, I'm from Chicago, so like my mother rarely cooks seafood. If she did, it was like salmon and shrimp.
are you,
She
is your
never.
family from Mississippi?
No,
Where do your family migrate from?
I don't know.
That's like that's the thing too. Like, I'm sorry for interrupting, but me and my friend was talking about like migration within America from like Black folks, and
Mhm.
like where we migrate from in our cultural foods like change, right? Because
Yeah.
like my dad's family migrated from Georgia, so we eat a lot of like turkey butts and
Mhm.
pig ears. But then my mom's family migrated from New Orleans, so we eat a lot of like seafood from there. So I was like,
Mhm.
when I was younger, I grew up with my mom, so we always had like a lot of seafood, you know, growing up. So I think that also may be like from where you culturally like you may a lot of Black people who live in Chicago are from Mississippi.
Yeah, I for some reason. Well, I already know. So on my mom's and my dad's side, I don't know anyone past my grandparents, and on my mom's and my dad's side, both sets of grandparents grew up here. Beyond that, I don't know them because a lot of them passed on, but also my mom. My mom didn't mess with a lot of my like great grandparents when they were alive because they didn't like her and her kids. So she didn't bother to get to know them as people. So even if I did ask my mom like, where we came from, she probably don't know because the only people she messed with was her parents and everybody else beyond that she didn't really know or they had passed on before she was born. So I'm not really sure my family migrated. Honestly, that's why I say like all I know is Chicago and like the Midwest because I literally don't know a family member that lives in the South or somewhere else outside of that.
Yeah, you might be
I,
like several generations in, more generations than my family. 'Cause I think my great grandma came here, but then at the same time, like I did like a DNA test, and like my great
mm,
grandma, she spoke Gullah Geechee,
mm,
is like this like very much like pidgin language that's like found in Americas,
mm,
like found between like African and like natives and stuff like that within like North Carolina. Like I don't know, so it's not like I was told this. I found like
mm.
like what happened was like let me show you this. Like tell you just right quick before we move on to like the next section, right?
Okay.
So so what happened was that like with my family it's like I just had one piece of information and I started going to different places where I had that piece of information from. So like my mom's like, yeah, your great grandma's your grandma and your great grandma was from New Orleans. So I went to a trip to New Orleans. So I started like sitting down talking to people, and then I started like finding out like, oh, like this is what my great grandma spoke, and then people from New Orleans like, oh, that's from North Carolina. So then I went to go figure out what's from North Carolina and stuff like that. So it was just like piecing the pieces together. I know that sounds probably lame, but
Yeah. No, it's fine.
I
I
was traveling over like back before the virus, like traveling a little bit over to see where my grandparents and great grandparents came from on my mom's side. So yeah.
Yeah, I feel like that's great. Honestly, I've never been outside the Midwest, so like I wouldn't know what soil feels like in the South if someone asked me. I wouldn't know what soil feels like in Kentucky if someone asked me. Like I haven't been that far in my life. I've been to like I said the surrounding states around Illinois, a little bit further out like Minnesota, a little bit further, but like other than that, I haven't gone far. Because I mean, one, I'm poor. Two, I've never been on a plane. I'm scared. And three, the times that I have been to the surrounding states were like college tours and stuff. Um, So yeah, but I always wanted to go. Like, first off, one of my top U.S. destinations is New Orleans. Reason being, one, the food looks amazing, and I'm not allergic to seafood, so let's go. Two, so I don't really care for Mardi Gras, but I do want to go. But I don't want to go for Mardi Gras, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of people do. I don't have any interest in Mardi Gras. And three, I like when people talk about the history of New Orleans and like different stuff in the past. I feel like it's always very interesting to me. Like, of course, I wouldn't go there for the French Quarter and the paranormal and voodoo and good stuff like that. But I feel like it's always an interesting topic when people talk about it because usually they'll talk about it within their family, like my grandmother was or my grandfather did or something. And it's really interesting that people have like that close of a connection to like voodoo or like just magic in general or just like the paranormal, different experiences. And it's always really interesting. Again, I'm not gonna go with Ouija boards and go kick it in a graveyard, but I do want to go because I like the vibe. I like the way the information is always very intriguing to me, and I feel like it's not just a intriguing like, oh, I like messing with ghosts. Like I don't know why I find myself so interested when people tell me these stories, but I really do. Like I don't know. I just find myself very intrigued. Like when people tell me a story like that, and then when they're done, I'm automatically off. But like when they're telling me, I get so wound up in it, or I'll like look up something about the city or the state, and I'll like find different information, and just like, whoa, this is really cool. Like this is
That's
cool. Like I don't know.
yeah.
I feel like Chicago's cool, but not like that.
Chicago has a very rich history, but we can go talk about that offline. I'm gonna move on. But
Yeah.
definitely Chicago has a very rich history and Chicago's a great city, so I want to say that.
Mm-hmm.
Regardless of what you say, Jessica.
Chicago. Just because I grew up in Chicago, that it's like it's the wow factor isn't as hard for me as it is for other people. Like I don't know. Also because I haven't looked up a lot of Chicago's history besides the founder, so like that's probably why. And no one's really told me stories about their lives in Chicago, and if they did, it's my life. But yeah.
Oh. I was gonna say I was talking with my mic on. Terrible. I'm on my mic off. My bad.
Oh, I didn't know you were talking. I was like, okay.
I know no one knows when I'm talking. No, I'm just kidding. But anyway, so like, I wanted to get some like sorry. I wanted to
Not
get
that scene,
so
Lord.
because of our conversation last week, I want to get into more of like the K-pop, K-drama, not K-pop, K-drama issue which was going on where we were talking about like diversity within K-pop and black people in not K-pop. Isn't it black people in K-pop? Isn't it one black K-pop star? It's a girl. Like,
Alex, she left.
oh, she left. Okay. Well, then anyway.
Girl, Fatou, she's in Black Swan, and she's from Senegal, but her group isn't that popular. It's getting there though.
Okay. Never mind. So I mean, one moment. I mean, K dramas in general. So like I haven't seen this one, but I think this is the one you were talking about from like Itaewon class, right? And so like I have like this right here, this scene right here is that people from Africa and the Middle East can't enter. I'm just following the rules. He's like, where are you from? And he's like, you.
Like he literally in the scene, he I think that's a little bit. I could be tweaking. I could be losing my mind, but that last part is out of context. So like in the scene, he's like, "Where you're from?" Basically, and then the black dude basically saying like, "I'm from blah blah," like a place in Korea, South Korea, and then they're not believing him. He's with his friends, and like I think his friends believe him, but his friends aren't sticking up for him, and so this bouncer's just like, "Yeah, no, you can't come in." And then his friends, they're just like, yeah, bro, like it's okay, da da da. And I think he was upset. The black dude was upset because they weren't sticking up for him. They wasn't trying to get him into the club. Like I think they were trying a little bit, but they wasn't doing all that they could. And then he eventually turned to his friends, like, you basically saying, like, why are you guys so mean? Like, I don't understand. And this is right before he like runs away. But I remember that scene. I was just like, oh my gosh, like they suck. And honestly, I would never talk to them again. Like, I could never talk to them again.
Yeah, I was like, y'all wouldn't be my friends. Don't. Okay, let me tell you this. Like, I have like had friends that were like, I've been the black person in predominantly white groups of friends, and that thing that happens there is something that happens here, where your like white friends, something happened to you that's racist, and then your like your white friends or your non-black friends are like, yeah, that sucks, but we're gonna keep doing our thing.
Yeah,
And I don't talk to them like that. I'm just like, okay, we ain't gonna talk because like you don't care about me as much as you as a friend if you're gonna allow me to face like this discrimination. If you're my friend, you'll be like, hey, what we can do together? You know what? I ain't going to this club anymore. I'm gonna walk out.
yeah,
Like you lost my service, right? Or
yeah.
even like in the old K drama fashion, like have like a rich kid be his friend, and then he like buys the club, and then black people are allowed to go in there or something. Like like K dramas always like the somebody always rich and then that buys the whole thing and be like, ha, I own you now. Like that'd be a good twist, right? Like they can't. It's like that's not. I know people might be like that's not realistic, but it's whatever. Like it's a K drama. Like a lot of this stuff in here ain't realistic, so it's just like I don't know. I feel like they could have did like a little bit better on that, but I wanted to click on the article. But you can continue your response.
Yeah. I didn't say really, I feel like that scene was messed up. I didn't watch the drama in full, but like scenes like that I did see. But it was just like, bro, who does this? Like, who? Who does this? I would really like to know.
Yeah,
Like,
that's
that's
not a
it.
good one. So like this other K drama that's called Backstreet Rookie. So like there was controversy because this
Ooh.
dude was
Okay, go
in
ahead.
blackface, right? And then I was like I was talking to my friend. I was like, "Is this blackface?" Like, because it was like in America, like people be in like blackface, but they'd be like, "Oh no, it's a tan."
Mm-hmm.
Or you just be like, "You too dark." Like, I've been joking with my brother, like, you know how they used to make black people take a paper bad test to see like how white they are. And I was like,
Yeah.
start making like like people other like non-black people take a paper bad test to be like, this tan too dark. You need to clean up. You need to wipe this off.
Exactly. Like, okay. I remember this scene. Yeah, I
Yeah.
remember. At least I remember the dudes with the dread scene.
Hmm.
That
And they were
scene.
talking about like he was like doing blackface, and they were saying that like his name was like Dal Sheik. I don't know what is that?
Dal
And it was
Sheik.
like
I think it was Dal
accomplished
Sheik in the movie,
blackface, a
in the show.
comprehensive article about Canadian perspective, but fully transformable, applicable that goes over the history of blackface and blah blah blah. Like I guess I was really confused about this because like in some of the work that I do in my job, like we talk about stuff like this,
Mm,
and like a lot of times people be like, "Oh, Asia doesn't like Asia as a whole don't do blackface or they don't do racism because like it's different there." But I don't
mm,
know. Do you think racism exists in Asia? Because like we
absolutely.
understand in America like racism is under white supremacy, but like isn't but how is like how is that like helping? I mean, how is that manifest in countries that like don't necessarily? I mean, historically, if you want to look into it technically, like these are all countries that
Hmm.
white America and white people try to conquer. So
Hmm. I think technically racism is I know people other people don't agree with me on this, but like
mhm.
I think technically racism is supposed to be it's typically given out well how do I explain this? Like it's based off of white people in power. And in order to be racist, there has to be in order for somebody to be racist, the only people that can really be racist, honestly, is white people because white people have power in every sense of the word. Of course, there is extreme prejudice. There is extreme discrimination in different POC countries. The continent such as Asia is included. Like many countries within Asia are very prejudiced within themselves. Like whether it's to foreigners coming to the countries, like somebody said in the chat, there's colorism. There is extreme colorism within people of them, like within people's own countries. Like even in places like India, Mexico, South Asia, places like that. Like there is colorism that exists, and so that is
And
the
colorism is a like so. I guess like with that being that, I don't mean to interrupt. I apologize for that.
mm,
But like I guess like in my organization, how we define I guess like racism is like anyone who participated in upholding the foundation of white supremacy, right?
Hmm.
Because it's like if you think about it, it's like, okay, so if a person is being like telling their kid, hey, like I need you to look like, when you talk about colorism specifically in the black or like South Asian community, like it's like, oh, you're too dark, I need you to be light, or if you marry white or stuff like that. That's empirically like racist, and it does uphold the foundation and the structure of white supremacy. And so like, even though they're not necessarily individuals with power, they're upholding individuals with power. And I think of it as like the bystander effect, like where you're like, or not even bystander, like you're actively, assisting people to commit that. Like, I guess like I think of like a kingdom, and then it's like, and then you have people who like, you have peasants of the kingdom, right? And the peasants of the kingdom are like fighting for the king's side. Like, you wouldn't you consider them still a part of the kingdom?
I guess they are. Yeah. I mean, whether you're a peasant or whether you're like a king, I feel like you are still a part of the community. Like your role in the community may not be like societally seen as like high if you are a peasant, um, but you're technically a part of the kingdom because you're part of the land. So I guess. Like I'm trying to think. Like I think
I know that analogy was weird, but I was just like thinking, because we've been talking about this when it comes to like race relations, specifically between like Asian Americans as well as like Black Americans, and what does that look like? And then like one of the things that came up was just basically how like a lot of times like within like a lot of times like Asian Americans as well as Black Americans uphold white supremacy towards each other, where they're like being like, black people are being xenophobic, but we're kidnapped and placed here. So why are we being xenophobic, being like, go back to your country, when we're like, we came here against our will, right? Or like, we have like Chinese Americans or Asian Americans being like, oh, black people are like disgusting to look at and all this other stuff, but they're upholding white supremacy by thinking that, and being like black people should be criminalized and stuff like that. That's just also upholding like white supremacy, right? Because it's just like, I think that in the end of the product, if nothing but white people benefit from this, then it doesn't make sense. It is racist, like,
yeah.
I don't know, I guess in my opinion, and like of it, because I've just been trying to understand and comprehend race when it happens, because I do think people of color can be racist, but I think they can only be racist if they're upholding white supremacy. So you can be racist towards each other if you're upholding white supremacist values towards each other, right? Like I think
Mm,
of like the Dave Chappelle skit where you have like the KKK member that was black the whole time, and like,
mm,
and how he was like upholding white supremacy the whole time, and he was a black person, right? But it was because he was holding up the foundation of white supremacy.
yeah. I see that. I think I don't know. I feel like when it comes to places like Asia, I've never, like I said, I've never been outside of the U.S. So don't take my opinion too highly because I've never been on these lands. Um, but I feel like like someone said in the chat, I feel like American racism. It's like it's a different view of racism than other people's racism. Like I feel like even as a black person, if I were to step foot in this country versus step foot in a place like China, racism is going to look differently for me. It's going to be different for me. Like I feel like a racism here, I feel like it's more blatant. It's more like in your face. It's more obvious. But I feel like a lot of times in other places, in other countries, I feel like racism may be more like covert. Like I feel like little things like putting no foreigner signs on doors and not sitting next to you on a train is a different type of racism than over here when people like call you the N-word to your face or like tell you to, I don't know, go back to your country, spit on your feet, like stuff like that. Like I feel like racism is a very different concept here versus in a place like China or South Korea or I can't think of Indonesia, Thailand. Like I feel like racism varies a lot, and I feel like that a big contributor of that is that a lot of those countries are homogenous places. So like within China, for example, China is a homogenous land, so of course it's hard to be like it doesn't make as much sense for people to be like, oh, you go back to your country when it's like we all are literally from the same place and we all benefit in the same ways. Like, of course, you know,
Go
there's
back to the
discrimination.
village.
Yeah, like you can do
But
that.
it's still like kind of like I don't know. Oh, go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead. Like, I mean,
Okay.
I guess you can do that. Like, I feel like people, you can definitely, there's still hierarchies regardless. So whether you're in China or South Korea, there's going to be a hierarchy that exists. So you may look down on somebody because they're not on your level in the hierarchy. But as far as looking down on somebody because they're not the same ethnicity or like they're not the same nationality, it's kind of, that doesn't make sense. It wouldn't make sense to me as a person from, if a person was Chinese and from Shanghai and then another person that was Chinese from let me think of another place, Guangzhou, like I think, I don't know if that conversation exists where like Shanghai is seen higher than Guangzhou or vice versa, but I don't really hear the conversation of those type of people telling each other go back to where you're from. Like I feel like if there's going to be a hierarchy struggle and discrimination between those people, I don't really see it as far as like, I don't really hear about it as much when it comes to homeland. It may be more so like this person has a better job than you. This person um, is higher on the totem pole. Like, of course, an elder versus a 20-year-old. Like, one is going to be seen higher than the other. Of course, those exist. But I feel like as far as like what you visibly look like, your skin tone, things like that, it wouldn't make sense to discriminate unless you're like one has a darker skin tone than the other. So colorism, of course, but like, if we are both light Asian people from the same country, it's kind of like nationality and ethnicity doesn't really come into play as much as it does here. I feel like if I don't hear about it, it could very well be the case, and I'm just not aware. But like, I feel like nationality and ethnicity is a big thing here because there's so many different nationalities and ethnicities that exist in this country. Versus in a lot of homogenous places, that's not the same case. So yeah, I think that's the case. But listen, I don't haven't been there, so don't judge me. But yeah.
I'm not. I'm thinking like in general, like in China, I think China has like over like 300 different type of ethnicities.
Mm-hmm.
So, like China has a plethora of ethnicities. Don't forget how it's not in general, but geography is not America's strong suit in
Yeah.
general. I have to keep continuously looking at maps to be like, okay, where is this from? You know,
Yeah.
but like China's huge, but China has not always been that huge of a place. And
Mm-hmm.
so like and because China has not been always that huge of a place, it had incorporated a lot of different ethnicities in neighboring like Asian like countries, right? And so a lot
Mm-hmm.
of people, it has been a lot of conflict between neighboring Asian countries, even within like the kingdoms and empires that China has built, because like the ethnicities are changing in that within that country, in the sense of like the ruler's ethnicity was changing, like in the Ming and the Qing dynasty. I'm sorry, I'm just trying to remember. I'm like, oh goodness, like I don't
I
want
know
to
what you're talking about. Yeah.
misinformation, but like so a lot of that stuff is changing. So I think that like they may be homogenous in the sense of like looks, but they're not very homogenous when it comes to ethnicity. But even looks may be definitely different, right? You have like different like Chinese folks of like being of darker skinned or being having whiter noses, right? You have like Chinese folks who have like very thin noses with paler skin that come from like the Han ethnicity, right? And then some people are mixed from Mongolian, and like some people, Japan was over there like being a hole and like destroying places around Asia. So you got people mixed with Japanese and Korean that lives in this space. Then you got Hong Kong, which was a British territory, right? That was like ruled over by white folks. And then you have the Opium War, where like a lot of French, you have France, you have Britain, you have America going into China just basically to stir up some shit, right? So
Mm-hmm.
like so we are, but we also like, so when I think about these things, I think about like the white influence of it.
Mm-hmm.
Like wherever you see like these heightened racism, or when you say, and they say we don't like foreigners, it's usually targeted to foreigners of color and not necessarily white folks, right?
Yeah.
Like it's been stories of like white people being allowed into clubs, right? They're like, we don't accept
Mm-hmm.
foreigners here, but then they'll let the white people in, right? They let
Mm-hmm.
the white women in, they'll let the white men in, right? But then they'll be like, oh no, black person, no, or no South Asian person, you can't come
Mm-hmm.
in, right? And there's usually a discrimination towards the people of darker skin tone, which I would think that even though Asia in general has had like a preference for lighter skin, I think that that was exacerbated through white supremacy, especially through like Europe consistently coming over their influence in the culture.
Yeah, that's true. I feel like what you call it. I feel like what is it? Even though like you can see it even on YouTube, like we will be like my experience in China. You can tell the experiences, or like my experiences in South Korea. You can tell the experiences are completely different when it comes to a white woman telling a story versus a black person telling a story, or even within black people, the experience will be different if it's like a plus size black girl versus a skinny black girl, or a dark black girl versus a light black girl. Like even within, there's so many different compartments that those experiences are going to be drastically different depending on what you look like. And so like whenever I watch like my life in blah blah blah, I tend to watch dark black women or dark plus size black women because I'm going to relate to that versus me watching I don't know, Sarah from Germany go over to South Korea and shop and be like, here's my experience. It's like, I can't really relate to you. So the experience is just blatant. You don't even have to search far in order to figure it out. Like you can look up YouTube videos. 5-minute videos will tell you that there's a world of difference.
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
So I want to move on to like, which brings me to the topic of what we're talking about. One moment. So which brings me to the thing that we're talking about a little bit more like earlier. So this is like the Itaewon class. I think that's how you pronounce it. I'm terrible at pronouncing any language, even English. Don't judge me.
It's okay.
So like basically like people like be aware, like spoiler alert. So anyone who haven't watched it yet, spoiler alert. If you are like, oh my gosh, I care about spoilers. So just letting you guys know. But yeah, so like in this show right here is like so like people were recording this and they were like talking about how progressive this was and like how like astounding this like was to even have like an episode of this even talking about like discrimination within Korea. And like people were talking about like how like how like there was like 57% of respondents said Korean discrimination against foreign nationals based on their nationality. But I think that that is very much coded language, in my opinion. Like I really do think that
Mm,
foreigners, like white foreigners, are not discriminated at the same rates as black foreigners, right? Like I
absolutely.
really wholeheartedly believe this. And I think that a lot of times, I just want to put that out because sometimes, like when I talk to people about it, like people, oh, what's going on? Oh yeah, sometimes when I talk to people about it, people be like, well, I was talking about Japan, and people are like, oh, like they treat all foreigners bad, like they treat all foreigners like this, and I think that that's not true because like it's like a lot of power that white folks have in like Japanese culture, whereas I mean, as well as in like all over Asia because of like their influence, right? So I think that that's not necessarily true. White people may be getting more prejudice in those countries because they don't have to be yield to or like worship there, but at the same time, it's not like they are so discomfort that they felt uncomfortable the entire time they were there, right? Because there's been so many stories I've seen that white people saying that they were called beautiful and gorgeous there, and then black people were presented with like for a gift from like their Asian coworkers, they got like whitening cream and a relaxer perm, like. So it's just like, and how that was just like, hey, you'll be pretty if you like relax your hair and also dye your skin, right? And like, and how those two differences are definitely like a problem, right? And I just wanted to highlight that as well. So with that article saying that like nationality was definitely an issue, like people getting treated differently on nationality, I don't think necessarily that's too true or not. Because like even when like black people from America go over there, they get confused with like they be like, "Oh, you from Africa? What part?"
Yeah, like
Right? No one's like when white people come there, they're like, "Oh, what part of the world you're from? America, Canada, South America, what else? Like France, Europe, you know?" So it's like all
yeah.
these places they can imagine black people, I mean white people being from, but like with black folks it's like limited. So I just want to also like highlight that as well. Um but yeah, I just wanted to go into that. So I had like some little bit of the trailers of these like movies. So like these
Mm,
little shows to like just like highlight like, okay, this is what they're supposed to look like. Sorry if my like laptop like my laptop has the worst speaker at this moment. I don't know what happened. It's like trash. So you may not be able to hear it that well. You'll be able to hear it because you can hear me. But like yeah. But I want to like look into like Backstreet Rookie a little bit more and like talk about like, like this is what it's supposed to be about. And then like this is what it's supposed to be like. Well, we're gonna look at I don't speak Korean. And so we're just gonna look at the trailer. If it ends in Korean, we'll get through it.
If there's subtitles, I could read it, but and that was fast. Okay. Yeah, it was chunky. Okay.
So with that said, I don't know what the guy with the black face had to do anything with two quirky people meeting up to like hang
Yeah.
out and whatnot. I want to say that because let's go back to like drama flavors. Oh, they don't copyright me because like people be copyrighting over weirdest stuff. They be like, "You've been on this site too long," like, and it just be like, "What?" But oh, am I? Oh yeah, you guys can hear me. Okay. So like, and this is like on this first episode, it's like in this, it's unclear the first episode at least whether this character is meant to be black or if he's adopted black style. Ultimately, it's an argument of splitting hairs because whichever one it is a problem. And it's like, but like it's just like this person going into it on it, but then like I think that like this is something that was really really interesting, like and I think this is like nothing but like stereotypes, and I think this goes back to like what I've been like thinking about lately, which is like this like wacky black character that they always have in shows in America. It's like always a wacky kooky weird black person, like black people can never just be like, yeah, that's cool, I'm just gonna sit here. Like, and like they always have to be like very wacky and like crazy and
Yeah.
like doing weird things and like, oh, and it's not saying that, but usually the other characters aren't also doing weird things. Like they're like the oddball in there, or they're doing so. If the other characters are doing weird things, like the black folks are looking more, they looking more weird. You get what I'm saying? Like they
Yeah,
look
I
more
remember
wacky.
that scene with the I think he was Korean with the dreads. I remember that scene. Oh my god, that scene was so cringy. Cause I don't want to spoil it. Well, I guess
Spoiler alert! So everyone who don't want to spoil it, leave the room. Okay, come
spoiler alert.
back in 10 minutes.
Honestly, but like in that scene, he has these dreads. He's supposed to be Jamaican or like he likes Jamaica or something like that. And then he sees this actual black man from Jamaica with dreads, and he was like, "You're my brother!" Like, oh, and they do this little dance, and then I think they just start like singing or like doing saying some reggae lyrics or something like that together, and then they're supposed to be like best friend to the end, Heidi Ho. But it's the cringiest thing to watch. Like I haven't seen something like so cringy in a while. It literally because it's not like first off, there are so many biracial actors they could have casted if they really wanted to portray a biracial Jamaican man. But I digress. If you want, like, I feel like because you know that this is a Korean guy, a like he's not half black. He's not half anything. He's himself. And this actor has been in other roles, which is why I know he's a full but he's just a Korean man. Like he's an Asian guy. And that's why I'm just like I know he's not biracial because in every other role, in every interview that I've seen him for his shows, he never speaks on it. I looked him up. He's not like so. It's the fact that you know he's not, and he has on this wig, and he's supposed to be like relating to this actual dark skinned black man with dreads. And the fact in the movie or in the show, they made it seem like they could actually relate because the black man wasn't like, he was like, hey. I was like, no, like, no one's gonna do that to you. No one's gonna be that friendly. Like, I feel like if someone actually did that, I feel like they either hate themselves or they just trying to be really really nice and not cause any problems. But I feel like I feel like I don't it doesn't make sense for a full-blooded Jamaican man to be like, you know what, we are brothers. Yeah, we're from the same land. When it's obvious we're not. We're not from the same place. It's not that like
Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry. I want to be like ranting. I'm like, first of all, Jamaica was like a slave colony made run by the British. So you were your parents enslaved by the British?
yeah, like
Like that's the ultimate difference, right? Like,
yeah, like it literally I was like, what is this? Like they made it seem like they were really like brethren. I was like, they're not. Like they're not even cousins. What is this? Like we're like I don't understand why are we making it seem like that's the case when it's not. Like it was so cringe to me. Like I've never seen something so cringe in my life. I was just like, what? Like I don't know. It was a lot. Like it was really cringe. And I feel like, you probably later on your own time look up the scene and know what I'm talking about because literally you can just look up the name of the show and be like Jamaican Brothers and I'm pretty sure that part will pop up. But like it's the cringiest thing ever. And I didn't watch anything beyond that, so I don't know if he progresses and gets better or if he remains this like very cringy person. Because even somebody in the chat was like, yeah, the character is pretty cringe. So I don't know if it was just that scene or he gets better. I don't know. I didn't continue to watch the show. That kind of turned me off from even checking it out. So, but I mean, at the end of the day, they don't make K dramas for me. So
they
they can
need to make more diverse K dramas.
like they
It's
really
not like
do.
black people don't exist in Korea. That's the thing, though. Like we can pretend because there's even white folks that be in K dramas that like they be doing like cameos that like get good
Yeah.
representation. So I want to highlight that as well. Like like I was watching I think we were talking about last week. I was watching Boys Over Flowers, and like
Mm-hmm.
it was just like a scene where this like guy. He's like, I mean, that guy. It was like Kim Bum's character. Basically, was just like flirting with like this very much like French woman,
Mm-hmm.
like she was just like oh blah blah, or you have like white people owning stuff in the Cape drama world or whatever in that specific drama, or you have like white people being like a bakery, art gallery, teaching, dreaming, being like all multiple things, and then you have black people come in just being like, hey, oh, where the party at? And then it's just like, well, we can't own clubs, we can't do that. Like, no, y'all don't own shit. Like, like that's what I was like. What is like? Because that's what it be feeling like when I be watching it. So I'm like, so like I think that like, we have to keep that in mind when we're talking about like they don't make it for us, but I mean, but they make it for white people too. Like white people get
That's true.
representation in it, right?
That's true.
Like even though it's not like a long or like expanded role, like they get representation in that, right? It's not like white people don't exist in Korea,
Hmm.
right? It's like these places are homogeneous, but they're not necessarily that homogeneous, and they become more heterogeneous as time goes on because more people are like immigrating, moving, fluctuating. It's easier to move to different countries now. It's easier to like live in different spaces now. Like black culture is
Yeah.
international. Black American culture is influential all around the world, right? Everywhere you go around the world, you will see some remnants of black culture, right? And that's either is due to like the enslavement, or you find it through like black people just like moving from place to place, and people loving the black American culture such as rap, hip hop, even our clothes that we wear in the US. So I think that like they can do accurate representation of black folks. Like you don't have to make it for me, but give me a scene or something. Like
Yeah. Like I feel like of course it is in your best interest to equally and fairly and correctly represent whoever you have on the television screen. But I feel like this kind of goes the same for K-pop as well. Like I think because they don't make the music and trying to target the black audience, and we may not even bring in the bulk of their revenue for their product or what they're giving out to the world. I feel like a lot of times they don't feel like they have to represent us correctly, or they don't feel like they have to be on their best behavior, because even in K-pop, like there are so many Korean not actors, Korean artists that have worn dreads or like had braids or grills or whatever. And then when Black Twitter or when Twitter in general is just like, don't do that, they do it anyway. And I feel like that's because we are not a top priority. Because if we were the audience they were trying to get to, and we were the audience that they wanted to grapple in and get the bucks from, they would be on their best behavior. They would do everything they need to do in order to be liked by us. And I feel like that kind of shows like we are not on their mind, whether it's K-dramas, whether it's K-pop, like we are, like I said, they should represent us correctly and they should do a better job in doing what they do. But at the end of the day, like we don't bring in the bulk of their revenue. We don't bring in the bulk of their views. We're not their targeted audience. So it's just like, I guess they have the mind like they
I would
can't.
challenge that they took Black culture in some aspects, right? People
Absolutely.
bring in the bulk of their revenue. Okay, like I would say that indirectly, Black Americans specifically and Black people in general bring in the bulk of the revenue. So they should be trying to need cultural appreciation, right? I don't mind you borrowing our culture for some stuff, right? But I need some cultural appreciation if you're gonna do it.
Yeah.
So I'd be like, Black people owning this like stuff, like this Black person being cool and great. Like I need cultural appreciation. Like that's all I need.
Yeah, but they just basically hit a Kim Kardashian with that. Like same way with Kim Kardashian was like boxer burgers, and people were like, yeah, like they can have something, completely change it, or like put a little other type of seasoning on it, and it's theirs now. Like it's completely different. Like for example, the JYP and the Rain duet they had recently, that entire melody was from Every Step I Take from Bobby Brown. It was made in the 80s. But the way that I would see that song plastered everywhere and not one person out of hundreds of comments would mention Bobby Brown. It's like they have the ability to take these songs, take these beats, switch it around a little bit in a different type of pot, put it out to the media, and then people will be like, yo, this is amazing, not knowing that this is literally a sample. Half these songs are covers, half these songs are not original, like from the beat to the melody to the lyrics half the time, like they are not original. But I feel like the only people that realize that are people that they're taking that stuff from. So if it's a Black music, it's going to be Black people that acknowledge it. If it's offensive to like to Indian people, for example, or to any like Middle Eastern country, depending on what they put in the music video. Like there was a Blackpink video that had a certain type of statue. I forget what the statue was, but it offended a group of people. Like I'm not sure if it was like the statue was of a deity in India or what, but it offended a group of people, and people were talking about it all day long. But like eventually it blew over, and it was overshadowed by the hundreds of positive comments Blackpink got. So it was just like, you know, they have our influence, they have us within their music. Like you can't hear half the music without hearing something of us. But at the end of the day, they don't have to give credit if they don't want to, because they're not the only people they're losing are us if they decide not to give us credit. Like, if they decide not to be like, yo, this is a Bobby Brown beat, the only people they're losing is us. And apparently that's not much, because they done lost us. Many artists have lost many of fans by the stuff they do. Like Zico had a Confederate flag sweater. Like, come on now. Like, they've lost many of fans, but Zico never stopped making money. Zico never stopped being on shows, making music. He made a song with San, literally talking about monkeys and going back to your country, and he literally didn't stop making music. So it was like,
I mean, in America, Nazis make music, so like, I'm not shocked that other countries have like racism. Like it was like one band that was like a Nazi band. I'm sorry for interrupting, but like band that was a Nazi band, and like they had like basically I don't know the songs, but it was just like basically talking about the Holocaust and how great it was, and then like and then they still were popular and they were still making money. Like people were complaining about it, and they were like, yeah, but we still make money though. I was like, and it was like US band, and it was like, but it was such a catchy beat that no one really listened to the lyrics.
Yeah.
And I was just like, you know what? I'm not shocked.
That happens a lot. Like I feel like even within Black music, you know, there'd be lyrics that's like, that's so questionable. But because the song is so catchy, you're just like, people just bop to it. But it's like, later in the song, it could be like, talk about sexual assault, or it could be talk about like abuse. And they'll still be like, not even, it's like glossed over. I'm just like, see, I listen to lyrics, so I don't want to hear that. Like, unless it's like in another language. I've never heard English song that I've heard. I've never heard an English song where it was like, I'm gonna forget about those lyrics. Like, no, like, I heard that. You can't, that didn't pass me. I heard it. I definitely heard it. Yeah, someone in the chat said that's so true. It's like people's bodies respond to the music, which overrides their mind. And honestly, yes, like people will like the beat, like the way it sounds, as long as it gets them grooving. What the lyrics has to say is not a part. It's not even 10% of what they care about. Like how it sounds is what matters. And it's just like, but that's so like weird. Like imagine you have an entire playlist with questionable lyrics, but all the songs are bops. It's like no.
Right? Like it was so true. Like I remember like my brother, he was playing this song and it was just so explicit. And I was just like, and it was homophobic. It was like blaming the victim. I was like, did this man just confess to a crime? He was like, yeah, this is a very,
Clearly.
I was like, he just confessed to a crime. He needs to be arrested. It was the crime he was like a very like, it was like a trigger warning, but it was like about sexual assault. I'm not gonna go into details, but it was like he said that within the song. So I was just like, I was like, and no
So
one, and they was like, this song is great. Everyone's like, this song is so great. And I was just like, I'm gonna say one lyric to the song just to show you how bad it is. YouTube like, but it was just like, it's like this like so trigger warning for anyone that doesn't want to hear this. Is like step out for a moment. But the lyric in the song is literally like, I think this bitch is gay. I guess I make her straight. And then he was, and he said, and then the next lyric is like, oh shit, this bitch bit my dick. And I was like, what the? He just confessed to. And then whoa, people were like, yeah, put that in the song.
come again? Like, how does that go past, the producers, the directors? Like, how does this get past the DJ man? How does this get past the dude that made the beat? Like, I don't understand. Like, I don't know. I feel like I understand, but it's just like my brain just doesn't want to. Like, I understand, of course, how it comes to be and like why it is accepted, but it's like I really don't want to understand. I understand it. It's just like it's a lot. But I feel like, it makes sense. Like that's why I say it's the same thing with like other music. Like I said, not even just with the lyrics, but like people can do stuff that's blatantly offensive to a community, but as long as it's not offending my community, I don't care. And it's like how that mindset is so destructive. Like this artist or this group is literally they offended about 3 different people in this one music video, and you still just don't care. Because at the end of the day, they're not losing money. And if they are losing money, it's not like millions on millions. Like, it's not the bulk of what they make. So as long as they're not losing so much to the point where they can be an unknown name, they can go from a household name to not being known, they don't care. Like, they're not really respectful to it. And I mean, I'm not going to be like, you had to wake up and go to a Black Lives Matter rally. I'm not asking you to do that. But respect goes a long way. And being courteous and not trying to be like, oh, this is my music. I completely made it when really you got it from Bobby freaking Brown. Like, it goes a long way. Like the way that duet came out and I heard it and I was like, this is so familiar. And then I put it on Shazam. I separated the melody from the lyrics and I put it on Shazam. And Shazam said, every step I take. I was like, I knew it was familiar. And I went to go listen. I was like, this is literally every step I take. And even in the music video, they do like a little dance break that Bobby Brown did. Like, it wasn't the same moves, but it was like a little, like in the middle of the song, they do the little dance break, like the old school 80s moves. I'm just like, what do you think you're doing?
Disrespectful. Disrespectful.
Like, it's like, like, yes, someone in the chat said they didn't realize it copied it until you broke it down. And there's so many songs like that, like from IOI, an older group called IOI. I think they wasn't together for long, but they made a song called "What a Man." What a man, what a man, what a man. They did not say in that song it was a cover. They didn't say they were inspired by. They didn't say they were in nothing. Like they put that song as if it was a single. And I was like, honey, that is not a single. It is never, that song is so old. My mother probably played that in the kitchen when I was 7. Like, who do you think you are? Like, but it's like they obviously are somebody because the fact that so many people was like, no, and then they replayed it and was like, yes. They put it on the music stage, like, yes, like that. They ultimately, they didn't last as long as a group. I think contractually they wasn't supposed to last for longer than a year. But like, had that not been the thing, they probably would have still went on because it didn't matter. It didn't matter to them. And there's so many examples like that where it's like, this is blatantly plagiarized and it's blatantly not your music. But you decide not to give credit where it's due. You don't even pay the original creators of the music. You just decide to remake it and think it's cute. Like, it's just so there was I think it's from 17 recently. This is like a month or two ago. 17 made a song called Left and Right. And black people were saying like it was literally so similar to the Cupid Shuffle. It wasn't like an exact replica as the Every Step I Take was. Like it wasn't that similar. But in Left and Right, it was like left and right, left and right. But like in the music video, it has almost the same moves as the Cupid Shuffle. But because they said the melody is a little different, when you watch the music video and you hear the song, it's just like, bro, this is literally Cupid Shuffle with some different seasoning. Like it's like you took it, you like mashed it up in a box a little bit, you decided to plate it differently. Like this is sauteed chicken. This is not fried chicken. This meal is baked. It is not boiled. Like it's literally the same dish, but you decided to do a little bit differently and be like, whoa, like this is amazing. Yeah. And someone said, I wonder if the original creators can sue them, especially if they are more famous. And honestly, I feel like possibly. I just feel like it depends.
I
So
think
like
that people, and that's the dangers of like not listening to music overseas because you don't know who like still in the songs either, too. Like, right? So it's like, oh, sorry.
yeah. But you can listen. You can say.
Oh yeah, I was just saying like that's the dangers of like being overseas. Like you don't know who's like still in the music or not, right? So
Yeah.
like you don't know like I mean the dangers of not overseas, like the dangers of not being like well versed in music because you're like someone could be literally singing stealing your song and like you don't even know. Like I think like for example, I think in like China it was like they were still in like there wasn't a song, it was like a cartoon that they were still in that was American and like they were just rebranding it and it was the same animation and everything.
Yeah,
They were
like
like making money and stuff like that. And then American companies was like, what? Huh? I because they kids watch international cartoons. So they was like, okay, you getting sued. And so like I think that they start listening once they start getting sued. Then they're gonna be like, oh, cultural appreciation. I attribute this to Michael Jackson.
like it's just I didn't even realize it was that bad until I started listening more and then I realized like people these are like blatant, these are carbon copies of songs. Like how but like because I'm not gonna say like oh they should be going through this because realistically I only know the rules for music as far as American artists, but I don't know the music the rules beyond. So I'm like I don't even know if like maybe they did credit somebody for the lyrics, but it's just like you present this to the public as if it's an original. So people are not going to take the time to go look through your song and see if it's credited because you have presented it as an original to an audience. Whether I'm 17 or I'm 7 listening to the song, my first instinct is going to see if you credit an artist. If you don't put inspired by, if you don't put cover, if you don't put edited influence in the title of the song, you're presenting it as an original. And I think that's the problem. Like, even if you look through, like I said, if you look through the credits and figure out they credited somebody, you still shouldn't present it as an original because that is deception. You're deceiving an audience. And so the audience that may be ignorant to the original creator, they're going to think it's an original because you have presented it as an original. You have presented Every Step I Take as an original. You have presented What a Man as an original. And it's just like, it's like at the end of the day, what's most important is that you give them their credit, but it's still very important to present to the audience as you should. Like, you shouldn't present it as an original. I don't care if you did pay the artist X amount of money to get the beat. Like, you should still be like, yo, you know.
Exactly. You don't
Especially
think
a
like
theme be like every step I take. Come on, because there are some, music where it's like, they have paid so and so to take a beat from a song or like a sample, but like a lot of times if it is a sample and like it's been taken and they don't say, yo, I took the sample. Most of the time, everybody knows it's a sample. But because it's Korean music and we are separated we're separated by so much, it's like, it's really hard for you to take a Tinashe sample and be like, yo, heard it over there and over there. Like, a lot of times what's a hit over here is not a hit over there and vice versa. So it's like, if you were to take, like I said, a sample, okay, but like people are taking whole melodies, whole dance moves, whole beats, like, and sometimes lyrics. Like, why are you talking about cocoa butter queens? Ain't no cocoa butter brown chocolate queens. Come on, like we're not gonna do this. Like, and some of these K-pop like early artists is just like, you talk about a chocolate queen, and then in the music video you have a Asian light skinned Korean woman, and it's like, did you just go to a Boys to Men and just copy lyrics? Like, what is happening? Like, what? I don't understand. And it's like, that's not even your market, also. So it's like, why do that? Like, your market isn't Black, dark skinned women. So why, why put these things in your songs? Like, it's just a lot. And I feel like a lot of artists, a lot of fans, they just like the music, so they don't think about it as hard, and like they don't like look at it and be like, whoa, this is a copy. But like, it's more than the music, guys. It's so much more.
yeah, definitely, definitely. Yeah, I think that that's like one of the issues. When you were talking about it, like I was thinking of this lady. Like I think of two examples. One example, I don't remember the artist, but they were like, I had a dream, and in my dream, I found this melody, and then like they had like put it in their music, and then like the music was like copyrighted. Like they literally had every beat they had in there was from someone else and it's from a
Mm-mm.
different song. They were like, he was like, no, I did have it in a dream. I'm like, was this dream like taking you took the melody from like this person in your dream, right?
Yeah, like if you snatch and run, were you the Hamburglar?
Exactly. Exactly. And then it was like
It's
this other thing with the white lady that was like, oh, I created this new thing called bonnets. It protects your hair as well. And it's just made out of silk, so less friction. And then I was just like, and she was charging like $300,
$100.
and it was like something you get from the dollar store for like $1 or like $2. And then black women were like, wait, because they were just like, why the heck would you be like, oh yeah, this is like, I'm sorry, why the heck would you be like, yeah, I had a dream about this, and then like I blatantly steal something. Like I don't understand like how people can be like, and like I want to give them the benefit of doubt slightly, like maybe like they heard it and they just don't. Some people like hear it and they just don't recognize it. But at the same time, why wouldn't you not look it up? Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
hey, like, why don't you not do research? Because the you know what I mean? Like I think that when I hear stuff, I'm like, hey, am I the only one with this idea? Because sometimes,
I'm probably not. It's just a mess. It's a
yeah,
whole mess.
yeah.
Like, it's so many things that are. I'm not just saying this as far as the K-pop industry. In American music as well, we have a lot of problems. Like, there is a lot that is so destructive in the American music industry. I'm not just playing favorites. Like, we have a lot of problems as well. But like right now, this video is pertaining to K-pop and K-dramas, and I think K-pop has a lot of destructive tendencies within its industry. Um, and am I saying that these issues are going to be fixed within the next 5 years? Maybe not. Like, it's been happening for so long, I wouldn't doubt that it would be fixed soon. But like, there are a lot of problems within K-pop. And while I have been a fan for a while, and I do love the beat, I love music, I love listening to K-pop, I feel like I can't be an authentic fan and if I'm not willing to acknowledge the problems within the industry. And vice versa. I love a lot of American music, but that does not mean that I don't acknowledge the problems in American music, whether it's hip hop, rap, country, pop. Like, I acknowledge the problems because there are problems. Um,
Exactly.
Somebody said, I wonder if there are some American music industry dropouts or something who go to Korea or other places to help them copy songs. Like, this could be so intentional, but we don't know.
I
I,
mean, definitely. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Jessica.
No, I just go ahead.
Oh no, I was gonna say definitely. There's a lot of like choreographers that they fly out. Like from my knowledge, they fly out a lot of like black choreographers who work with like Beyonce, who work with like
Mm,
different like black like industry folks within America that they fly out to Korea to teach people how to dance and get them to the beats. As well as I'm pretty sure like it's international like DJs where they're like, hey, blah blah blah, like give me a song, and they're like, okay. So I it may be like that as well. I think that like one thing I want to like highlight is a like just because we're talking about like black people in like K dramas and black people in K-pop, like I think it's like an underground of like black folks working within like K-pop of like choreography and like singing and like creating the beats for people and assisting people on how to make songs and stuff like that. And there's like a whole underground industry that's not even necessarily brought up. Because I remember it was like I forgot who this one woman was. I think that she was assisting in Big Bang or whatever, but she was read with such vitriol for like she was a choreographer for Big Bang, I think. Like don't
mm,
quote, and she was met with such vitriol because they were like, "You monkey, you gorilla," because like I guess one of the bandmates hugged her. They were like,
mm.
"You," and she was like, people were like typing in Korean so much racist stuff, sending her death notes, all this other stuff, just for being like, "How dare you be with a Korean?" Blah blah blah. I was just like, "She a choreographer. She teaching him how to dance."
Exactly. Like she helping him make what y'all like so much. Why are you so? But that happened recently. Like with Bam Bam from God Seven, he had like a phone call with like this black fan. I think they were doing. I don't know how they gave out the like you win a call blah blah.
Bam
But
Bam
that's
is
how
the
they.
N word. I want to highlight that as well.
This is true.
Bam Bam cute. Like it's so
This is
conflicted.
true.
Bam Bam can dance. Bam Bam is cute. He got good music, but he be saying the N word. And I'm like, Bam Bam, can you be less racist? Because you're
Yes.
loosen up your cuteness. I need you to be less racist. Take it in.
Sad. It hurt me. It hurt me when I found that out. I was like, dang, bro. But he had a video call with this black girl, and he didn't do nothing bad. Like I think this whole video call, he behaved himself. He was just completely fine. But then he called her. I think he was like saying she was sexy, she was beautiful, and he was complimenting her. And she was like, "Oh, thank you." But like after the call, people were down her throat. Like people were just like, "He will never be with you," and you're kondongi, and like who you think you are, like you think like you're. They basically was saying like you're trying to seduce him, trying to get him to like you, and it was just like she didn't even say a word before he complimented her. So it was like he obviously liked what he saw. That is not her problem. To the point where she had to take like her Twitter bio out of her like TikTok account because she was like, I don't want people to know my Twitter. Like, I don't even want people to like DM me right now because it's a lot. And I'm just like, bro, I wouldn't be surprised if she deleted her entire accounts because people were really on her for him calling her sexy and beautiful, which she was. She was a very pretty girl. But I was just like,
Also, Bam Bam is a flirt. Everyone should know
yes,
Bam Bam. He flirt with everybody.
yes,
He a flirt. So I don't know why they acting like Bam Bam don't be flirting with everybody. Like,
yes. Like, I'm just like, yo, he be on that with the girls. Like, it's been obvious. There's been years of evidence where we've seen Bam Bam try and get on that with the girls. So it's like, why are we acting like, she's such a harlot and she's a whore and she's seducing her with her black magic and her crystals in her bra?
black
Like,
pussy.
yeah,
I was saying black and pussy, and it says bussy, but bussy is like boy pussy. So it's
yes, that's backwards. That's backwards. But like, yeah, but people was really doing the most. Like they were really on her, and black people had to get in the comments defending her, like, get off because she didn't do anything. Blah blah. I watched the entire video, the entire call, and she didn't do anything. Versus this other fan, this other white fan. I think she was white, but if she was white, she was definitely white passing. And she had another video call with some other dude, some other artist, and she like had on lingerie. She was calling him baby. She was like doing these very like suggestive things. And I think they both were over 18, but it was like you could see he was very uncomfortable in the phone call. And it was like she got flack for that for obvious reasons. Like, why are you doing that? But the way that no one mentioned her being no one ever mentioned her skin color. No one ever mentioned how she looked like. They were just like, it's wrong for you to wear lingerie in a video call but it was like there was no mention about her as a woman, her worth, like who she is, like what she looked like. There was none of that. It was basically just calling out what they should call out, but nothing beyond that. And I was just like, y'all not. She didn't even delete her Twitter for that. She didn't like close her Instagram account. She didn't say, "Yo, I don't want people to know my TikTok." Like it was like a day or two, and then she went on with her life. Like, of course, she got flack for it, but it wasn't nearly as much flack as that girl got. And her flack was deserved versus the black girl didn't even do nothing. Like, I didn't say anything. I didn't even open my mouth. And he just called me beautiful. Like, I didn't say, yo, can you call me beautiful so you can make the fans mad? LOL. Like, no. But he called her sexy, and that's what he wanted to do as a man. Y'all not jumping on him. He's grown. Both of them are adults. Like, these are 20-something-year-old people. Leave them alone. Like,
You wouldn't do that. I would do that just to.
oh my God, it depends on who it is. Like,
And I would do it because I'd be like, I don't know. I love to reveal racists, so.
yes.
Because racists always think they can put on their cape on the internet. So I'd be like,
exactly.
Okay. So,
I love exposing the exposing of racists on TikTok is so funny because they'd be like a racist do something, you'll put it in your video like look at what they said, and then they'll attack the mess out their account. People will delete their accounts, they jump to their Twitter, they delete their Twitter, then they email their schools like, yeah, this girl said blah blah, get them kicked out of college, all types of stuff. And I just be like, yes, beautiful. Like racists have lost their jobs, they have been rejected from their colleges that they were once accepted into, they have been kicked out of clubs, all type of stuff. TikTok is like, that's one great thing that comes from TikTok. Like, people, you will get kicked out of school. We will let your colleges know who you are. Like, if you're brave enough to say something, or especially make a video with your face in it, oh wow, you really don't want to go to school. You really don't want a job at this point, because these people will follow you to the ends of the earth to make sure you are never successful a day in your life ever again. And if they see you successful, they're going to bring up everything you did, and you are now without a job, without school. You're just at home hoping and praying that they forget, when it's like, no. I'm pretty sure that girl, it was a TikTok video of a girl, she was like, how to make N-words, and she was like, without a dad, go to jail, blah, blah. She made this video, and they got her kicked out of college, but this was like a year ago. But I'm pretty sure if she resurfaced and was like, yo, I got this job at this power plant, yay me, they're gonna be like, no, you don't. Like, they're gonna be like, no, you don't. Here. Like, they're gonna email her boss, they're gonna email her supervisors, her coworkers. Like, that is one good thing that comes from TikTok. We will get you kicked out of life. And I don't feel sorry for them. Like, I don't really be in the comments like emailing schools, but I see people do it, and I'm just like, I don't feel sorry for you, because you were that brave to be racist. Be brave without a job. Be brave without money and going to school. Like, it's okay. Just be homeless. Like, since you have so much to say, like, live on the side of the highway. I do not feel bad for you. I'm sorry. Like, you feel that bold to be racist and a hateful person, then you and your hate can live on the side of the freeway. That's your life. I don't feel bad for you.
yeah, I'm like indifferent about the like. I'm not mad that racists are getting kicked out of school and stuff like that, but I'm like wondering, I'm like, is this like, because we're having like a uptake in like white supremacist like behavior, so I'm like, not saying it's never been there, but I feel like an uptake in saying like a lot of white people have been like, yeah, I'm proud to be a white supremacist, like, well, like 10 years ago where people would have been like in the closet about it. So we have people like picking sides, so I'm wondering like they use this as an example of like, I don't know, I wonder what does that exacerbate like racial tensions within the US, because like, people were like, look, they kick old Susie out. Oh no, blah blah, and how people were like defending her and stuff like that. And so I think that a lot of like white supremacists, like, I don't know, I just wonder like, would they be like, would she ever learn a lesson, or would she be like, you know what, this is why I became a Nazi,
Yeah.
like, would that be the opposite effect, like, I don't know. I just think about that too. I'm like, what is the impact on those people's lives to a point where do they come back? Because some people don't learn lessons.
They don't.
Some people don't learn lessons. Some people don't feel sorry. Some people will go back and come back 10 times harder.
And do it again.
She's on Fox News, being a newscaster, being like, oh, that's in the past, and then like also, being in the past, and then like also she's like being prejudiced toward like black coworkers and discriminating against folks.
Yeah.
Like, never do this to me again,
Yeah. And I do acknowledge that like that can very well backfire, and it's like really unfortunate that is something that could very well happen. But it's just like, most of the time, I feel like the people that you can be very hateful. Like you can still be a hateful person that got kicked out of school, but you will never get on this platform again. Like, oh, Angela said, yeah, a lot of people donated to bail out Kyle Rittenhouse, the white shooter, like millions and millions, and they probably paid for his college and all. But like that happens. Like even with George Zimmerman, I think someone bought the gun that he shot old boy with, and it was just like there is an equal amount of people that's like I'm gonna treat you how you need to be treated, and then the equal amount of people that's just like actually I'm going to uphold all this hateful stuff that you have going on. Like just as much people that's just like I'm going to contact your school. There's the same amount of people that's just like, well, I'm going to send you a donation since they got you kicked out of your apartment. I'm going to send you $100. We're going to also send you thousands of dollars so you can get you a house. Now you're not in an apartment, you're in a house, and it's just like whether
your racism.
yeah, like whether we feel victorious on like what we do and like getting rid of all these hateful and terrible people, there's going to be equal or more amount of people that's just like, no, we're going to combat your love with more hate because you are being hateful towards someone else that was hateful. You are being a bad person when that person was a bad person. But you know what? Fire doesn't win with fire. Like that don't make no listen, like it's just I don't feel bad. It's just like a lot of times, I would never wish misfortune on anyone. But if karma does come to bite and you get misfortune in your life because you were a terrible person for most of your life, I don't feel bad for you. Would I intentionally, drag you out your house and be like, you're on the street now? No, but like a lot of people deserve that karma. But like I said, it's kind of like others will get in the way of what they deserve because they're just like, I don't want to see my fellow brethren down. Yes, they may have called you the N-word, but they still deserve a duplex with a car. Like, they still deserve to live the good life. Like, it's just like, man. And someone said, I wish we had that level of solidarity on the other side. Like, I don't know which side they mean. Like, maybe I don't know, but like, I don't know if they mean like the solidarity on, within the Asian community or within the white community. I'm not sure.
Or like, yeah. Can you explain like what you mean by other side?
Yeah. Because it's just like, like the amount of people that will be perfectly fine with overlooking so much hateful behavior. It's just like, it's crazy. But, it makes sense. It's not surprising. It's just wild. Like, it's not a surprise at all. And I don't think I've ever lived my life where I was like, wow, I'm surprised by racism. Like, because racism has existed for as long as I have been, much longer than I have been alive. And I have seen it impact my mother and my family. So, like, when I got to be an adult and I had to face racism head on, it's kind of was like, I expected this. So it doesn't surprise me. It doesn't hurt my feelings. But it's wild. Like, people need to just get kicked out of school and be home and learn their lessons. But like you said, some people don't learn. Like, some people don't care to learn, don't care to be better. And you just got to take it for what it is. Like, there's nothing that you can do at that point. You can't make them be better people.
Yeah, I think the person probably meant on the other side being like, if only we were supportive for like people who were receiving discrimination and like racism on the other side, like people who are like, I got fired because of like anti-blackness, or I got fired because of xenophobia, or I got fired because like I'm an immigrant, or like et cetera, et cetera. I think that's what they meant, but I'm not too sure. Also, we're on a little bit of a delay. So that's the whole thing too. So like it's a little bit of a delay. So I don't know what part they're necessarily on where they're like, oh, so they're probably gonna like, yeah. So we're gonna use like critical thinking on this one.
But yeah, and I mean, if that is what they mean, I do wish we had that level of. I feel like that level of solidarity exists. It's just, I feel like instead of us, going out, instead of people going to help you by like finding you a house, I feel like a lot of times when people just donate to your GoFundMe's or your Venmos, or they'll try to give you money and support. It's not as easy for a lot of people to just write an email to your school because emails are free. So like supporting you financially because you got kicked out of your house by a racist landlord, or you got kicked out of your job by a racist boss. It's like a lot of us will try our best to support you financially, but people are struggling, and
Exactly.
our stimulus do not look as good as some of these other countries. So we're not even able to help you if you try. So it's like a lot of people will just they'll try their best to support you financially, but it's not as easy as just sending an email because emails are free. It's not even easy as just calling your school because that's free.
I think that I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt. I'm interrupting the whole time. My bad.
Go ahead, no, it's okay.
Yeah, but I'm thinking of like maybe like I think it is could be as simple as that they can write give you a letter of recommendation like, hey, this person's great, you should hire them, blah blah blah. You
Mm,
know, as I seen it like on the other side of like things, I seen people look for jobs for other people. People hire people, right? I seen
mm,
that on the other side of things of like I think that it could be as easy as that, like, hey, I can't provide you housing, but I can provide you a job, or I can't provide you a job, but I know a place where you can live for like 6 months with no rent, right? Like,
mm,
and I think that like people are like immediately interested in helping people. So I
mm,
think that that is something that is something to be to be looked into and also to be recognized.
mm,
Yeah, so I think that like a lot of times people stand together, but I think sometimes we have such like a lot of times when we see on the other side of things, when we see like people who are like very much racist and like maybe conservative, you want to get a little bit more political, but like we see that on that side, like they have multi-billionaires who are donating to their lives, right? And not that many people on the left or on the right, you know what I mean, like not that many people with those values that that we have are like billionaires, right? So it's just like so they have all these unlimited untapped resources that they're able to pour into these individuals, right? Or these individuals are already in like good standing with society. These weren't like poor people who are talking like this mess, right? These are like upper middle class. Like I'm talking about on TikTok, right? They're not extremely poor people. They're usually like, even though poor people can be racist, of course, but like they're
mm,
like these are people who are like maybe upper middle class or middle class folks who already probably have access to those resources already. So it's like easier. Whereas like if a poor person or like a black person or a brown person or a Asian person gets discriminated from their jobs, or indigenous folks or like Native Americans get discriminated from their jobs, they're like it's because like and you know what I mean, like it's like they don't have as much access to wealth in that
mm,
aspect because they're already at the bottom, right? So you have someone that's here and they get their life disrupted versus someone who's here who gets their life disrupted, right? And so it's just
mm,
like of course it's going to be definitely uneven, so it's easier for this person to go up than this person because even if they go up they still not there.
mm. Yeah, that definitely exists. I feel like, which is another talk for another day, but equity versus equality, it's very different. Um, but yeah, like I don't think it's enough to just be like, oh yeah, you both are individuals, you're both equal. So if we email both of your schools, you're both gonna lose just as much. And just like he could be on that school on financial aid versus sis, she got her stuff paid in full by her dad. Like I just think, it's gonna hurt one person versus the other. Like, yes, like you said, poor people can still be racist. It don't matter how much money you make, you can still be racist. Like your income is not going to stop your hatred. Like hatred can still find its way into your life. So you can literally live in a trailer park and be racist. But I feel like a lot of times it's unfortunate because you see people, especially people that like you're rooting for on the internet. So whether it's your K-pop idols or it's someone on TikTok or it's an actor or whoever, these are people that you looked up to, that you rooted for, you like their content, you like their art, what they gave to the world, and then they turn out to be crazy, terrible people. And it's just like, especially if they're really famous, no matter how many people they lose because of their racism, it's not going to hurt them as much. It's going to take for it to be a situation like Shane Dawson for that to start having an effect. Because Shane Dawson already got unpopular with YouTube, so his following wasn't as big. And then all that he did came out in the era of cancels. Like cancellations are happening by the dozens these days. So his stuff came out in the middle of an era. His stuff came out in the middle of an era where people are willing to not listen to you, never hear a peep from you again, unsubscribe, unfollow, unfriend. Like, so, it would take for something like that to happen to a lot of these artists for them to be like, okay, let me learn my lesson. Or, like you said, it can backfire and be like, I'm gonna be worse. And it's like, you okay, but like for the most part, I would hope that people learn their lesson. If they got 1 million fans and they lose 800,000, they learn to not be such a terrible person, or at least fake it. Like, because a lot of people will just fake it. They'd be like, "I learned my lesson," and they'll just be fake, and then there'll still be terrible people behind doors. But you know what? A lot of people don't even care about. A lot of people just want to see you be good on TV. They don't know you personally. So if a friend come out later saying that he's still a bad person personally, then we'll deal with it when we cross that bridge. But right now, it looks like you've learned your lesson. So I don't see anything else beyond that. But for me, I feel like I would try my best to see and actually analyze changed behavior and make sure it looks good, because everything that glitters ain't gold. Just because it look good don't mean they're a good person. But with a lot of stars, you don't see them personally, so you can only see what progress is on the television or is on your what's this called, on your monitor, or like something like that. So I would try my best to hold people accountable no matter how much I like their songs or their shows or whatever. And then, if they change their behavior, try to see if I could mess with them again. Like if I could see if I could mess with their content again. But like a lot of people, like you said, they just don't learn their lesson. They'll forever be terrible people. And it's going to take for them to have kids or be in a grave or something for them to realize, like, dang, I really was a terrible person. Off to Lucifer's lair I go. Like I think it's unfortunate, but it happens. Like even in the K-pop industry, even your idols who you love and adore, they can be some really hateful people behind closed doors. But because you don't know them personally, you will never know that. Like, and that's insane to think. Like some people that make great art can just be terrible people. I eat R. Kelly.
Right? Like her R. Kelly. It's like, but that's what I'm saying. Like I'm thinking like right now, and then we're gonna end it in a few seconds, and a few seconds.
Mhm.
But like I would say, like even I push back on like I don't know if cancel culture actually exists. Um,
Mhm.
and maybe we can talk about this a later time. But like I don't, because like I know people only way people get canceled if they're no longer making money.
Mhm.
And like R. Kelly wasn't no longer making money for a lot of people within the industry, so he was disposable, right? Bill
Mhm.
Cosby not no longer making money for like the people in the industry, so
Mhm.
disposable, right? And so even though they did such horrific things, we still have people in the industry who continuously do horrific things that are not like being called out because they're still making money for the industry, right? Like
Yeah.
Chris Brown should have been locked up. He got accused of sexual assault twice and also beat women multiple times. It's also been like colorist. He's also been problematic. He's been racist. He's been fetishizing people.
But
So,
he can dance.
huh?
He can dance.
Right? And that's what I'm saying. Like R. Kelly can sing, and he was locked up too. So like. So like in 10 years from now when Chris Brown is no longer profitable and we have our Chris Brown special where people and victims who survive his sexual assault are like crying about it, we're going to be like, why didn't we listen? Because he was still profitable and people were willing to look the other way during Chris Brown, just as the same way that they're willing to look the other way during R. Kelly, the same way they were willing to look the other way with Bill Cosby, right? It's like people are still like cancel culture doesn't necessarily exist unless you're not profitable. Like the industry is definitely glad to give you up when you're not profitable, right?
Yeah.
But when you're
Yeah.
profitable, they're like, oh, Chris Brown can still make good bangers. So we're not gonna be letting him go up to the chopping block. We're just gonna ignore this comment. We're not gonna
Yeah.
news people are being paid to look the other way. They may report on it, but they're not gonna stay on it that much. And so it's just like, I don't know. I just feel like when we talk about cancel culture, we have to really realize like it's still a very capitalist system where they're like picking and choosing who's profitable or not. Like those who are not profitable, yeah, you can pay for your sins, but those who are profitable, like you don't have to pay for your sins yet, right?
Yeah.
You have to
And
be more victims until then.
that's absolutely right. And then just you just see you see the what is it called? I guess you see like how the intakers of the music do not the people the fans the society the people that intake your music and your content do not overpower the people that fund your content, the people that give you the money to make your content, or the people that give you money as a result of your content. Like we don't overpower those people that the powers that be. And so it's until society and your fans and the people that intake your content can overpower those people that fund whatever you're doing, there'll never be a time where like people can truly be canceled and be like, okay, your life is done. You have nothing else. Like I said, unless like you said, unless they have nothing going for them anyway, and they're like up in age and the height of their career is over with, there will never be a time where the Chris Browns or the like really really popular rappers or the people that's just terrible people will be completely canceled. Like because they're making money and because they can, like you said, earn a profit for the people that is behind the scenes. Then of course they're still to be used. Like they're still to be on the machine. Like we still need to get what we need to get out of them. But it's like someone said in the comments, that's why we got to be anti-capitalist. Like I feel like the people don't matter enough. The fans, the everyday civilians that work a 9 to 5 and go to school, they don't matter enough. Like those people don't really make a difference because those companies, those powers, those people that funds all that stuff they don't lose enough when it comes to our support. Like when it comes to people being like, yo, that was bad, you're a terrible person, I'm not going to support you anymore. They don't lose enough. They don't have anything that's making them learn a lesson so that they can check their artists. So why would they do it if they don't have to? And so it's like, I don't know when that day will come where, we will overpower them and be like, yo, we're going to shut this whole thing down. I don't know when that's going to come. But it may not come in my lifetime because this has been going on before me. I'm only 20, and this type of system has been going on for a very, very long time. So I hope someday, people can, even if they don't learn their lessons, they can get their whole career shut down justly. But until then, I don't know. I just think, like I said, I don't listen to Chris Brown. I don't listen to R. Kelly. Like, because
I don't support Chris Brown at all. I be telling
yeah.
advocate, don't support. If anyone's listening, don't support Chris Brown.
Like, I don't know how to do a like separate the artist from the music type thing. Like it's really hard because a lot of times I associate, if I'm listening to your music, I want to know, oh, your family, like what's your life like behind the scenes, like, oh, you're a cool person, I like you in your interviews. So it's hard for me to be like, I'm going to separate the artist from the music. Like that's no, like certain people can do that, I guess, because it's like, you only hear for your music, you don't care about them as a person. So it's easy for you to just listen to the music and not associate. But it's hard for me to separate those two things because when I think about Chris Brown, I'm thinking about him being cute in This Christmas, him in Stump the Yard, him young without the tattoos on the come up in his music. I'm thinking about him on my auntie's poster in her room. Like, I'm thinking about him as a person. I can't just think about Chris Brown and be like, no guidance. Only No Guidance. That's the only thing I see. No Guidance, the song. That's all I know. Like I have to think about him as a person because it's hard for me to separate the two.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So my laptop is at 5%. Someone asked, "What is anti-capitalism?" Jessica, do you want to answer this right quick in like 2 seconds?
Okay. So like in my understanding, I think anti-capitalists can be people, and they're basically people that want to replace capitalism with like other sort of economic system, which is like usually a form of socialism. I'm trying to explain it and not use words like socialism. And
Well,
like,
anti-capitalism is like kind of like more like anti-industry and like I guess like because I think our society we're too capitalist, so it's like anti like against being against too much production and like valuing production and results over people's lives. And I think that's the simplest way I can say is like anti-capitalism is more like we value people's lives more than like products and like places and things, right? Whereas capitalism values products, places, and things over people's lives. Yeah. And someone put it in the chat, so thank you. But yeah, so this is the end of our live. Let us know what you think in the comments below. Let us know if you want to see us, what topics you want us to talk about next. If Jessica wants to come back on. Other than that, like, yeah, we can like, yeah, I'm sorry. I'm like, I don't want my laptop to die. But other than that, thank you guys for coming out. Feel free to like this review. This review. Feel free to like this video. This video will be up like tomorrow for some reason because YouTube takes 24 hours to upload my lives anyway. So see you guys soon. And I'm like, okay, Bye.
Bye.